I start, I'd like to quote the UN Secretary General, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, who mentioned that the developing world needs to stop viewing climate change solely as an environmental issue and begin approaching it as a development concern. And our changing climate is a result of unsustainable development practices, and it is a serious threat to human progress everywhere. Let me just highlight what was the Millennium Development Goal 1, which was to eradicate extreme poverty and hunger, and was to reduce by half the population living on less than $1.25 by the year 2015. And what happens to this, the effect of climate change on the poor? It really is that climate change reduces the poor people's livelihood assets, for example, health, access to water, homes and infrastructure. It also alters the path and rate of economic growth due to changes in natural systems and resources, infrastructure, and labor productivity. A reduction in economic growth directly impacts the poor through reduced income opportunities. This is a chart I won't take you through, but the key there is a green line, which says that since the pre-industrial revolution time till now, our temperature growth has been less than 1 degree centigrade. And what would happen if you carry on the way we are doing at different levels of temperature growth? Here's another cartoon I like is that enough people still believe that the whole talk about climate change is not really true and not based on good science. And therefore, you have a lot of people still putting their head into sand. But I think it's always better to be safe than sorry. It is better to have taken mitigating steps rather than deny the effects of climate change now and maybe face the consequences later on. I strongly believe that climate change is really happening and will increasingly affect the poor. There is an unholy nexus between climate change and extreme poverty. You have poverty that impacts, and its impacts tend to ignore the effect of aggregate economic growth on poverty and household welfare. They are inversely proportional. You have enough empirical evidence available to date that suggests that climate change will slow the pace of global poverty reduction. Poverty will reduce, but the rate will come down. The impacts of climate change on agriculture yields are generally a poor predictor of the poverty impacts of climate change,